I had been married to the young Marquis barely Whitfield month when he announced he was taking Whitfield concubine. I refused to accept it, clawing for his favor until the rival and I bled each other dry. She caused my miscarriage, I made her pay with her life. All of Riverdale hissed that the senator's daughter was Whitfield jealous shrew unfit to be mistress of the house, but I didn't care. Then, to clear the way for his foster cousin bride, he locked me in the lakeside cottage and set it ablaze. Only as the flames ate my flesh did I learn the two had pledged themselves to each other long ago. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on my wedding day. 01 night in the locked cottage, I dreamed. Nathaniel had topped the civil service exams, Whitfield giant peony rosette glittered on his chest as he rode in triumph down the avenue. Young women on both sides flushed scarlet, hurling sachets of embroidered silk. I threw one too. Light gauze at the tea-house window lifted, he spotted me, eyes soft with promise. I hid behind my fan, heart somersaulting. The scene shifted, I knelt before the senator, begging him to grant the match. That plea was the first stroke of my ruin. I woke with tears soaking both temples, my mind Whitfield tangled wise. Even if he was the Beaumont heir, my blood was blue, or how had I fallen so far? The city now praised the new couple's bliss, while I, the senator's proud daughter, had become Whitfield laughingstock. One glance, one promise, and I had buried my future beneath Whitfield lying man. Regret choked me, but before I could plan an escape Nathaniel stepped into the room. Disgust twisted his face. My very existence, he said, troubled Lillian. If I truly loved him, I would honor one last kindness, he would see me off the mortal coil. Sparks rained down, devouring gown and skin, I screamed until my lungs charred, yet he never looked back. With my final breath I swore, Nathaniel, may you and your whore die screaming. I opened my eyes and heard the wedding march. He beamed. Rory, I've come to claim you. Hand over hand I performed the rites and was tucked into the Rolls-Royce. I lifted the lace veil, same as before, the roof lined with brocade silk, gold thread peonies, silver bells, and silk tassels chiming Whitfield cruel celebration. Last time those tinkling bells had sounded like joy, this time they told revenge. The car halted, Whitfield crimson sash was placed in my gloved hand. I steadied my pulse, let Whitfield's shy smile bloom, the scarlet bridal gown throwing crimson onto my cheeks. Even though he coveted only my pedigree, the sight momentarily dazed him. Guests laughed. Quit gaping, groom. He recovered his polite mask, only I knew the monster beneath. I endured every ritual until the bridal suite. Soon, half drunk, he staggered in and folded me into his arms. Rory, you're finally mine. I simpered while my brain raced, how to escape consummation. Cousin. Cousin. Whitfield commotion outside urgent, breathless exactly on cue. 02 last life, at this very hour, Lillian's maid had shrieked that her mistress's heart pained her. I'd had my dowry matron cane the girl 10 strokes, then sent her packing with the message that if Beaumont needed Whitfield physician, she'd best find one, her cousin had no cardiac cures. Nathaniel hadn't interfered, but his brows knitted tight. When Lillian herself arrived, white-draped and trembling, begging mercy for her maid, I added 5 more strokes. One blow caught her shoulder, she spat blood. Nathaniel shoved past me, carried her off, and stayed gone till dawn. I sent summons thrice, each was turned away at the east wing door. By breakfast Riverdale buzzed that the senator's daughter had been abandoned on her wedding night. Tonight I only smiled, then rearranged my face into tender alarm. Husband, was that Lily's girl? Something dire must have sent her racing at midnight. His arms loosened, worry flickering. You should go, darling. If anything befell your cousin while she's under our roof, the family name would suffer. He hesitated, torn between chivalry and the bed. Go, I urged. I'll wait. He exhaled, grateful. I'll return presently. Not if I can help it. Dawn found him hurrying back, apology ready. Rory, the poor girl took ill, I stayed in the guest annex until she slept. Sweat beaded his hairline, he was clumsy at lies, and even Beaumont lifted an eyebrow. I straightened his tie. Why so rattled, darling? Of course I believe you. Is Lily mending? He nodded, relieved. Only an old weakness. Beaumont's gaze warmed the senator's daughter, impeccable yet tractable. Nathaniel, you're Whitfield married man now. Wisdom and airs, quickly. We exchanged smiles, mine razor thin, his no doubt mocking the fool he thought me. After all, my 64 dowry crates of jade, brocade, and deed papers would soon sit in Lillian's boudoir. 03 Back in my own quarters I found an uninvited guest. Lillian, luminous even in pale lace, dipped Whitfield curtsy. Sister, pardon the intrusion. You outshine every tale told of you, my cousin is blessed. I caught her elbows, raising her. I've heard the same of you, dear cousin Whitfield. Living cameo, my husband says. Whitfield blush swept her throat, her glance flicked to Nathaniel, who answered with the soft, possessive smile I once mistook for love. From her purse she drew Whitfield velvet box. Please accept these jade bangles, my mother's. Whitfield token for your new happiness. My eyes darkened. Those jade bangles again. In my last life I had given them to Eliza, only after she died did I learn they had been soaked in musk. I smiled as I slipped them on, praising their flawless color, while Lillian's lips curled in Whitfield's soundless sneer. We had been married Whitfield little over Whitfield month, yet Nathaniel and I still had not consummated the union. It wasn't that he didn't want to, every time his cousin called him away. Tonight Whitfield headache, tomorrow tightness in her chest, the next day wine tasting or moon viewing excuses in endless variety. That evening, after we had washed and were about to retire, Nathaniel lit the red candles early, unable to hide his impatience. Young master, young master. Tina's voice arrived at the perfect moment. Our young lady has just acquired Whitfield new painting and can't tell whether it's genuine, may the young master step over and judge? It was late, whether he would be appraising art or Whitfield beauty, everyone above stairs and below knew the answer. I looked at him and smiled faintly. Why don't you go and look, husband? This wife is rather curious herself. This time Nathaniel had no intention of rising. Your master is already abed, whatever it is can wait until tomorrow. But. Tina, rebuffed for the first time, turned anxious where she had been smug. She didn't know Nathaniel had already swallowed several times while watching me. Bar the courtyard gate, he ordered. If anyone disturbs Madam and me again tonight, sell the lot of them tomorrow. With that he kissed me greedily. I answered him, swallowing my disgust not from any lingering hope, but because in my previous life the child in my womb had already quickened. I could still feel every kick, and yet I had failed to protect him. This time I would carry him safely to term. As for Nathaniel, I would keep the son and lose the father. Next morning, before the sun was high, Lillian's voice floated in. Sister-in-law, are you awake? Lily has come to pay her respects. Such impatience she couldn't wait Whitfield's single instant. I rolled over and pretended not to hear. Beside me Nathaniel wore the satisfied look of Whitfield bridegroom, but at Lillian's greeting his face froze. Thanks to memories of my past life I knew Nathaniel was still little more than Whitfield boy who had tasted Whitfield woman for the first time. He had only just learned what Whitfield female body could give him, and now the girl he truly loved had caught him red-handed. He must be in Whitfield panic. I chose that exact moment to murmur, husband, isn't that Lily outside? Nathaniel fought to stay calm. Sounds like her. It's late, we should rise. When we were dressed and entered the sitting room, Lillian set her teacup down with Whitfield clatter and hurried to Nathaniel, looking him up and down. Congratulations, cousin and sister-in-law, at last you are truly wed. Her words were congratulatory, but her eyes accused him of betrayal. I fear my timing is poor, I said, pressing Whitfield's hand to the small of my back as I sank delicately into Whitfield's chair. On any other day I'd have been up at dawn, but husband, it's all your fault. The sight of my obvious discomfort enraged her, she bit her lower lip hard. My good wishes are delivered, I won't disturb you further. Take care, cousin. Today the sister-in-law is rather short of strength. Without Whitfield backward glance Lillian hurried out, taking tiny, furious steps. Nathaniel called after her, half rose, then, remembering last night, decided to stay and breakfast with me instead. The more cheerfully I ate, the less taste the food seemed to have for him. "There's business in the study," he said at last. "I'll join you later, madam." As soon as the meal ended he rushed off to soothe his true sweetheart. I rested Whitfield's hand on my still flat belly. I could only hope the new prescription would work. Whitfield month later I met an old acquaintance from my previous life, Eliza. That day she wore Whitfield's delicate silk jacket embroidered with cloud motifs, her slender waist accentuated as she stood behind Nathaniel. "Rory, I know I've wronged you, but Jamie has already given herself to me. I don't wish to hide her away as Whitfield's secret mistress. You've always been the most generous of women. Will you allow Jamie to enter the household and keep you company as Whitfield's sister?" In my last life I had been proud, without Whitfield's second thought I slapped her. Eliza's grandmother, Flowers, was Whitfield's bonded servant who had waited on Beaumont her entire life. Eliza had grown up in the Beaumont mansion, and it was there that Nathaniel had first noticed her. Although Beaumont disapproved of an heir consorting with Whitfield's maid, she approved of Eliza herself, and promoting her to kept mistress was easily justified. Thus, not only had I failed to drive her out, I had also earned Beaumont's dislike. "Sister Jamie, fate must love us both." I clasped her hands, surveying her with evident pleasure. "What my husband doesn't know is that I was just wondering how to reward Flowers for her lifelong service to Mother. Now that you and my husband are fond of each other, kindness is bearing its proper fruit. Why settle for the status of kept mistress? Let her enter as Whitfield's true second wife. I'll open my private purse and give her Whitfield's splendid welcome." Eliza's eyes lit up and she curtsied hastily. "Thank you, madam, Jamie is deeply grateful." I turned to Nathaniel. "What does husband think?" He stared, utterly taken aback that I had agreed so readily. He had expected tears, protests, perhaps Whitfield's scene that would pit me against Eliza and leave them both bleeding. Instead I was not only agreeing but insisting on Whitfield's lavish wedding. For Whitfield's moment he had no idea what to say. "Rory, are you truly willing?" "I don't wish to wrong you." Still holding Eliza's hand like Whitfield's bosom friend, I answered, "Do you take me for Whitfield's jealous shrew, husband? I am, after all, the principal daughter of the Whitfield mansion. I can certainly be generous. Since you've raised the matter, I must uphold your dignity. Still, husband must keep his mind on important affairs and not be lost to feminine charms. But with Jamie and me at your side, your life should be pleasant enough. We won't allow any more women to clutter the back court, will we?" I smiled sweetly, half inquiry, half coquetry. Distracted, Nathaniel nodded. I pressed on. "The sooner the better, let us go this very moment and lay the matter before Beaumont." He frowned and tried to stop me, but nothing can hinder Whitfield's devoted wife. When Beaumont heard, she shook her head at once. "Rory, you and Nate have been married how long? And already you indulge his nonsense? Tell me truthfully, did he force you?" "No, mother, your daughter-in-law is willing." Not wishing to wound the heart of her lifelong servant, Beaumont had no choice but to discuss arrangements. The date was fixed only 10 days away. Eliza could hardly contain her joy and cowed out her thanks repeatedly. Nathaniel, beset by misgivings, excused himself in haste, claiming urgent business, while events spun farther beyond his control. Beaumont told Eliza to stay home and wait for her wedding day in peace, then kept me behind. "Good child, you're the one who's suffered." She patted the back of my hand gently and sighed in resignation. In my last life, Beaumont had been caught between me, Eliza, and Lillian. One girl she'd watched grow up at her side, the other Whitfield niece by blood. She never helped me, yet she never openly blocked me either. Still, whenever I remembered the torments of that lifetime, anger flared in my chest. "There's nothing to call suffering," I said. "Now that I've married him, I'm his wife. His joy and sorrow come first. If I refused, he would simply keep her on the side. Better I agree with Whitfield's good grace and let him remember my generosity." Beaumont brushed away the tear at the corner of my eye. "Don't worry. I'll protect you. No one will be placed above you." She had Flowers fetch the key to her private coffer. I'm handing the household keys to you. From now on, everyone in this house obeys your orders. You needn't consult me again. Consider it my recompense. Rory, men stay boys until the grave. You must learn to school your husband. I smiled and nodded. Whether other men were so easily schooled I couldn't say, but after what Nathaniel did to me, I only wished him dead. Flowers, equally teary-eyed, beamed with gratitude, yet my mind was Whitfield's polished mirror. She had dwelt in the inner courts forever and had seen every sordid trick. In my last life, when Eliza and I fought until only one of us could breathe, this woman had surely lent Whitfield hand. Now that she owed me Whitfield favor, she was only putting on an act. 06 I had barely returned to the East Wing when Lillian came looking for me. Sister-in-law, I heard you found cousin Whitfield kept mistress. Is it true? I lifted the teacup at my elbow and sipped. It is. Lillian looked angrier than I felt. Sister-in-law, have you lost your mind? You've been married barely Whitfield month and you're already adding another woman to his bed. Cousin, you don't understand. Eliza and my husband are already of one heart. How was I to stop them? Besides, he promised that once Eliza is installed, no other woman will be taken. And I am Whitfield, daughter of high house, who could ever outrank me? Tell me, why should I quarrel with my lord over Whitfield lowborn maid? Lillian trembled with fury, yet for all her bitterness she had no words she could safely speak. I deliberately described every step of the concubine rites, flaunting the dowry I had prepared with such care, and her color kept worsening until she excused herself and fled. As for Eliza, I had not tricked her in the least. The 6-pearl-encrusted hairpin newly fashionable in Riverdale so many ladies had tried and failed to buy was my wedding gift to her. I had also engaged the most skillful seamstress to cut her robe, Whitfield double-layered, gold thread, brocade silk wide-sleeved gown. Whitfield kept woman may not wear scarlet, so I chose ruby silk vivid yet beyond reproach. I devoted every shred of energy to making this installation shine. Even Beaumont was startled and urged me to scale it back, but I had already warned the staff. The second wife had come from Beaumont's own wing and must be shown every courtesy. Proud to begin with, Eliza became outright arrogant once I praised her so lavishly. When gossip drifted back to me, I smoothed every rumor. The lawful wife bowed before her and read her moods like Whitfield weatherglass. Soon the entire household was currying favor with Eliza, and her position rivaled mine. At last the day arrived. After her maid finished, Eliza looked ravishing, while that same morning my own stomach heaved in the first whisper of pregnancy. Truly, Whitfield double blessing under one roof. That evening Lillian sent again for Nathaniel. Tonight belongs to the second wife and the master, I said. Unless the cousin's business is urgent, let it wait until tomorrow. I posted guards at the courtyard gate. They all knew Eliza's star was rising and served her zealously. I also sent over Whitfield rare vintage, laced with Whitfield discreet drug. The noises from Eliza's suite never ceased the whole night long. Next morning, when she came to offer me tea, scarlet welts dotted her throat and languid desire swam in her eyes, now unmistakably Whitfield woman rather than Whitfield girl. I received her tea with Whitfield's smile and took her to greet Beaumont. Lillian happened to be there as well. Her gaze at Eliza dripped venom. Since the lady has graciously accepted you, I'll say no more, Beaumont declared. Still, you came from my wing. Conduct yourself modestly and put your mistress first in all things. She bestowed Whitfield jade bangle along with this mild admonition. Lillian's face was storm-black. Sister-in-law favors you, but remember your place. You're merely Whitfield's second wife. Don't cling to cousin like some brothel girl, the way you did last night. I bit my lip to keep from laughing. So the night's soundtrack had driven Lillian wild. Eliza flushed scarlet. She herself had wondered why the master could not get enough. Now, before every servant in the courtyard, Lillian had humiliated her. The feud was sealed. Unlike my previous life, I had stepped safely out of the women's battle and left Lillian and Eliza to tear at each other. 07 Don't be angry, Lily. After all, she's your cousin's new pet. Step aside, Whitfield little. If she whines to him and he feels sorry for her, you'll be the one who suffers. Lillian came to me complaining that Eliza swaggered like the lady of the house. I put on an air of grievance and urged her to avoid Eliza's tempest. The more I counseled patience, the more aggrieved Lillian felt, and the more she baited Eliza. She's only an orphaned cousin living under this roof who gave her the right to boss us? Madam, I swear she's in love with the master herself. Eliza, in turn, ran to me with her grievances. I soothed her with costly trinkets while playing the peacemaker. Though I'm the lady of the house and hold the keys, there are corners I can't reach. You please my husband, I'm grateful. I'm not the jealous sort, so don't think too much. I've warned the cousin not to trouble you, and I hope you'll show her the same forbearance. Neither listened. Each day one or the other stormed into my courtyard to lodge complaints or weep. As for Nathaniel, his head ached. One woman was the love of his heart, the other I'd turned into Whitfield pampered canary. Overwhelmed, he hid in his study and refused to appear anywhere. I treated the spectacle as dinner theater and found my appetite improved. I could eat 2 extra bowls of rice Whitfield day. Whitfield few days later, the family physician told me Eliza was pregnant. I rested Whitfield hand on my own rounding belly. At last, the moment I'd waited for. The mid-autumn family banquet arrived. Eliza could scarcely contain herself. When the platter of mandarin fish and sweet and sour sauce was set before her, she suddenly retched. Beaumont's brows knit, but flowers behind her fairly glowed. Old madam, shall I summon the doctor? The physician arrived within moments, took her pulse, and announced the news. Beaumont beamed and rewarded Eliza on the spot with Whitfield full betrothal headdress. Nathaniel was ecstatic. As he gazed at Eliza's belly, tenderness softened his eyes. I kept my smile in place while stealing Whitfield glance at Lillian. She was grinding her teeth so hard her pupils looked ready to leap from her skull. In my last life it had been the same. Once I conceived, he played the tender husband for Whitfield while. But Eliza and I clawed at each other until, in one shoving match, she accidentally pushed me and caused my miscarriage. This time I let no whisper of my pregnancy escape. I would sit back and watch the bitches chew each other's fur. Back in the East Wing I sent for the pair of jade bangles Lillian had given me and had them delivered to Eliza. The missus says second wife Flynn's fair skin shows the jade at its best. She borrows the flowers to offer Buddha congratulations on today's happy news. Nathaniel happened to be in the courtyard. He recognized Lillian's bangles at once, laughed, and accepted them for Eliza. Fine pieces, take good care of him. Eliza thanked him profusely and slid them onto her wrists with shining eyes. When I saw Lillian again I mentioned the gift, excusing myself for lacking anything more suitable and begging her not to mind. Delight she couldn't smother flashed across her face. She waved away the matter as trivial. But trouble struck fast. Second wife Flynn miscarried for no apparent reason and bled so heavily the physician shook his head. He examined every object nearby and found nothing amiss. I lifted my gaze to her maid Beth. Beth gave the faintest nod, then stepped forward and knelt, answering in timid fragments while glancing at me. There is one thing, newly given, that the lady loves and never takes off. She looked at the jade circles on Eliza's wrist. I let shock flood my face. Those were Whitfield present from cousin. How could they cause Whitfield miscarriage? The family physician inspected them closely, brows knotted. Madam, the pregnancy was still fragile. These bangles were soaked in musk tincture for at least 3 months. The drug has seeped clean through. Wear them day and night and Whitfield loss is almost certain. I pivoted toward Nathaniel. He looked as stunned as I pretended to be. Yet I had been in the mansion less than 2 moons. No finger could point at me. On the bed Eliza wailed herself hoarse. Sir, give your concubine justice. That was your child. Nathaniel swallowed hard, dismissed the rest of us with Whitfield's sweep of his hand, and stayed to soothe her. Leaving the room I spotted Tina slinking behind Whitfield tree near Lillian's door. Pretending not to notice, I murmured to my maid, how could it be little Lily? The master says he won't let her off. What will become of her? Whitfield. Few steps farther I paused, Tina scurried off toward Lillian's court. I had underestimated Lillian's place in Nathaniel's heart. Even though she had killed his heir, she received no punishment. Lily knew nothing. When Tina tidied the bangles, she accidentally mixed them with musk. The excuse was paper-thin. Who keeps musk tincture lying around? I waited for more fiction, and he supplied it without Whitfield flush. Beaumont asked coldly, truly? Nathaniel answered, smooth as silk, I investigated myself. Could it be false? He ordered Tina sent to the district attorney's office. Beaumont sighed in disappointment but said nothing more. I pressed Whitfield's hand to my belly, chilled by how narrowly I had escaped. I had to move faster. Lillian was the child of Beaumont's younger sister. The aunt's family was undistinguished, so they parked the girl in the mansion to keep Beaumont company. I refused to believe Beaumont was ignorant of whatever lay between her son and her niece. She simply would not tear down that curtain, lest she lose Whitfield, daughter-in-law from Senator's house, so she played deaf and mute. I had no such scruples. When I burned alive in my last life, father, mother, and big brother were visiting mother's family in southern Jiangxi. I had no one to appeal to. Month after month Nathaniel forged letters in my hand claiming all was well. By the time they returned he announced that an accidental fire had taken me. Big brother refused to believe it, but every witness and every one of my people had been reduced to ash. Mother fell gravely ill with grief. Father, heartsick, resigned his office. The mighty Whitfield mansion sank into silence overnight. How could I not hate? Whatever the cost, I would drag their filth into daylight. I called my maid Sunny. Find Whitfield few born gossips and repeat everything the master said today outside second wife Flynn's window. Add that the master and Lillian have sworn undying love, kept hidden only because of their childhood bond. Tell her she and I are laughing stocks. He never meant to let her carry the child to term. Cousin Lily merely struck first. Eliza was no fool, and Flowers had her back. Could Whitfield, proud woman like her, swallow that insult? My lookout soon reported back. When second wife Flynn heard the tale during her lying in, she smashed every piece of porcelain in her rooms. After Whitfield, while Flowers hurried over, they locked the door and schemed the whole afternoon. Only at sunset, when the old mistress was about to rise, did Flowers leave looking green. Sunny was massaging my legs. She had grown up with me. I kept no secrets about Nathaniel and Lillian. I was almost gleeful. I had waited 2 lifetimes for this dogfight. Then Whitfield's servant from Beaumont's side came running. Trouble, trouble, madam is wanted at once. I had just lain down. Sunny dressed me without missing Whitfield beat, tying on an inconspicuous sachet. Nathaniel had claimed urgent business and slept in his study for days, yet there he knelt before Beaumont, half-dressed, shielding Lillian in his arms. Eliza's hair hung like Whitfield Hagg's as she shrieked. Old madam, if the master loves cousin miss he can tell the missus and take her openly. Why sneak about? Your servant heard Whitfield ruffian had broken into the cousin's court. Fearing for her, I rushed in without time to inform the not Whitfield servant was in sight, so I went straight to Lillian's door only to hear lewd sounds inside. I kicked it open, and there he was, on top of her, plain for every groom and maid to see. She wasn't finished, her voice kept climbing. Cousin miss, we're all the master's women, why not act like sisters? You call me Whitfield fox spirit who disrespects the missus, turns out you were describing yourself. Beaumont sat at the head of the hall, wheezing, face purple. I had already learned the outline on the way, yet Whitfield's scandal like this should have been smothered on the spot and settled in private. Eliza and Flowers, however, had staged Whitfield's superb drama. They dragged not only Eliza's own servants but extra hands borrowed from Beaumont's wing. Leading them was Flowers herself. How could such Whitfield crowd keep its mouth shut? I gloated to myself and simultaneously broke out in Whitfield cold sweat for Eliza. After this fiasco, Beaumont would never again feel the slightest warmth toward her. I tucked the thought away, widened my eyes in disbelief, and looked at the 2 people kneeling on the carpet. Husband. Cousin, this. Then I knelt beside Lillian, turning toward Beaumont. If that's how it is, please don't be angry. Let's simply give my husband what he wishes. The sachet at my hip swung back and forth with every gesture. Ugh. Lillian suddenly vomited. "Call the doctor quick, call the doctor." I scrambled to support her, shouting at Sunny, bringing the scented pouch even closer to Lillian's nose. She retched again and again. Eliza's face was bloodless. She was experienced enough to know what it signified, but she guessed wrong. "The young lady of the house is already 2 months pregnant." The family physician's words stunned Beaumont, and Nathaniel beside her looked as though he'd been struck by lightning. Even Lillian shrieked, "Impossible." Why? Because she and Nathaniel had first slept together less than Whitfield month ago. That night, after Eliza's mishap, Tina had eavesdropped on my conversation and rushed to report. Fearing Nathaniel's wrath, Lillian carried Whitfield midnight supper of wine and roasted venison to apologize. The apology ended in his bed. Weeping, Lillian swore she couldn't bear another woman giving her cousin Whitfield child. What man can resist tears from the woman he adores? Even if his own child had been lost, another could be made, so Nathaniel invented Whitfield charge and dismissed Tina from Lillian's service. Once started, the habit stuck. Claiming urgent business, he closeted himself in the study every night and every night rolled with Lillian across the sofa. He thought no one knew. He never noticed Eliza seething outside the east wing, leaving only when the lamps were snuffed. The 2-month pregnancy instantly cracked the lovers' bond. Nathaniel shoved Lillian away from him. "You told me you didn't bleed because you didn't know why. Turns out you'd already slept with someone else." He repeated it like Whitfield broken record. Perfect and unexpected bonus. I flicked my gaze toward Sunny. She quietly escorted the unfamiliar doctor out. The family physician himself was indisposed after Whitfield bad oyster, poor man. Lillian was locked up, Eliza was confined to her courtyard and, Whitfield few days later, escorted Flowers back to the village for her early retirement. Sunny giggled. The doctor said only Whitfield tiny fraction of women never bleed the first time. Heaven's on our side. We have to finish this quickly. If they demand Whitfield's second opinion, we're finished. I nodded. Have the kitchen send the cousin Whitfield tray. She loves fresh roasted venison. Be sure to include Whitfield carving knife. I pointed to the pear-infused brandy. Let husband bid his cousin farewell properly. In Whitfield few days she'll be shipped home. The brandy contained Whitfield tincture that inflames the temper, and it performed flawlessly. Lillian's explanations poured off Nathaniel like rain off oil. He kept demanding why she'd tricked him. Both grew more and more frenzied. Lillian seized the carving knife and slashed at Nathaniel's groin, howling. He snatched up the leg of venison and bludgeoned her until she lay still. I rested Whitfield's hand on my still flat belly. "Baby, Mommy succeeded." By the time I arrived, breathless and distraught, Nathaniel was cursing through clenched teeth, one hand clamped to the blood-soaked sheet between his thighs. Lillian lay beside him, face purpled, forming Whitfield dark lake on the Persian rug. I fainted on cue. When I came round, Beaumont was sobbing softly. "Dear child, with all the turmoil you didn't even know you were expecting." I let joy flash across my face, then bit my lip. "Husband? Cousin Lily Dash?" Beaumont shook her head. "No luck at all. We've sent the girl back to her mother's people." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Nate has been maimed for life." "Wonderful, maimed is perfect." I dug my nails into my palm until tears finally came. "What shall we do, Mother, what shall we do?" I whispered, fragile as spun glass. "Hush, hush, my brave girl. Your father-in-law and I have decided, the estate is yours to run. Whether your baby is Whitfield boy or girl, it will be the sole heir. Promise me you'll guard the last sprig of this family tree." Her grief was so raw I could only nod. Lillian was dead, but the true architect of my previous death still breathed. Bundle tucked under my arm, I pushed open Nathaniel's door. "Wife." His eyes were pools of shame. "You've suffered. From this day on I'll cherish you, I swear it." At the word child, his gaze melted. I smiled down at the motionless man in the bed. "Why are you smiling, wife?" he croaked. Slowly I unfolded the cloth, the blood-crusted venison leg that had cracked Lillian's skull. His face twisted between loathing and reluctant remembrance. Sunny stepped out and pulled the door shut behind her. I'm smiling because you and your cousin were so devoted, yet she carried another man's 2-month child. Then I was blind. From now on you're all I need. He wouldn't even utter Lillian's name. I shook my head. Wrong again, darling. Because that physician, he was on my payroll. I let my gaze drift to the bandages between his legs. And your cousin, bless her, understood me perfectly. An unruly appendage simply had to go. You viper. His mouth writhed, Whitfield palsied hand clawed at the sheet, flooded with impotent fury, but the monster was caged now. Call me viper if you like. Poor Lily paid with her life. I turned to leave, my sleeve brushed the candlestick on the side table. In my last life I burned, this time Nathaniel would taste the flames. Beaumont hosted Whitfield congratulatory banquet for my coming child. Every footman and scullery maid was drunk before the first course. By the time anyone smelled smoke, Nathaniel had already crumbled to ash. No one suspected me after all, I had loved him so. Beaumont, heartbroken, handed the entire estate over and retreated to her prayer room. My parents urged me to end the pregnancy and, later, find another husband. I refused. Vengeance was complete, I desired nothing more. I became Whitfield widow, the most exalted widow in Riverdale, mistress of the Beaumont fortune. My son would be born its youngest heir. Days drifted by in pleasant leisure, no pre-dawn rituals, no pandering to Whitfield man, just pruning roses and winning at cards. When my boy reaches his majority, Sunny and I will remove to the lakeside cottage and never look back. The picture alone is bliss enough.